Welcome to Let's Talk Macarthur, Macarthur's very own podcast and YouTube channel for small businesses, local charities, associations and clubs, and residents of Macarthur to be able to get to know the people that are in their neighbourhood and running these businesses and involved in these charities. We've got a very special guest, licensee in charge, principal and owner of R&W, Mount Annan and Narellan, Mr. Troy Nicholson. Welcome, Troy.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right.
First of all, congratulations on Let's Talk Macarthur. It's a fantastic initiative.
Thanks, mate. We just hope some people get some use out of it. So I've got a little bit of a bio here on Troy. So just so people can get to know a little bit about Troy and what some of his passions and interests are, but we'll find out a little bit more during the interview anyway. But Troy was a student of Pittwater High School. Paul moved into the area some time ago because he's an experienced director with a very, very strong professional history in real estate. Troy, we're probably talking about close to 30 years.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. He doesn't want to show his age. Troy's a multi-award-winning real estate agent, even up to this year with Rate My Agent in 2021, picking up awards there. But he has a previous background and still current as a bit of a hobby these days as well. So Troy is actually a racing driver. So some of the stats I've got on Troy from those days, racing driver from January 1983 to present. Previous motor racing experience includes street sedan champion, 91 to 92 Australian production car championship, 3 times James Hardy 12-hour Bathurst. Drove in that. The 1995 Tooheys 1000, that's a pretty big one, and Australian Tarmac Championship. So there's plenty of experience there, and I'd imagine, Troy, there's a whole heap more that I haven't been able to pick up on that from your driving experience. But Troy has also been actively involved in a number of community and business organisations over the years, including the Greater Narellan Chamber of Commerce, the BCRG, Cargie, and Troy is very, very passionate about giving back to the community that he lives in and works in, and is always supporting local community charity events. So first of all, Troy, this partnership that we've got with R&W and Let's Talk Macarthur, we're going to be going through and talking about some of the elements of the real estate business specific to the Macarthur region and real estate in Australia itself. And where you see it is now and where you see that it's going. So let's just go back 12 months plus to, say, March, April last year when COVID first hit.
Yep.
There was a lot of real estate experts came out and they said that the real estate market was going to drop by 33%. What happened?
Yeah, well, that's far from the truth. In fact, it's gone the other way. It's held on strong right throughout that period. It's largely because there's been fewer homes on the market, so therefore, competition's been rife. With all the government assistance, first home buyers are out there in numbers. So the market's been very strong through that period.
It has been. Do you think there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about the fact that we're all trapped here in Australia? There's no travel overseas, so there's no spending money overseas. I've got personal friends of mine that like to go on 2 to 3 cruises a year. They're not doing that. That money is then being invested back into housing, amongst other things.
Yeah, absolutely. When we have seen investors back into the market, which have been, out for some time. So, I think people are using that money to invest in their home, including renovations, or anything to do with the home, and then from there, perhaps then upgrading to the next house.
Yeah, we've seen that. It's funny, we had the COVID period last year, and the New South Wales government for us, for our area, handled it pretty well. And we got through, and so there's still a fair amount of activity. Even when there weren't open homes, we were having the private inspections. But from there to where we are now, this lockdown for us is going for a longer, more extended period of time.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw last weekend that there was less properties went to market on auction in Sydney overall. A few were passed in, the clearance rates are still very, very high. So the buyers are still there.
Yeah.
But how much of an effect do you think this extended lockdown will have on real estate?
Well, obviously, short term, we're feeling the effects of people holding off putting their property on the market, so that's having an impact in our business. But it's going to have it'll actually increase prices again. Whether you call that a positive, it is for some. It's not for others. But certainly, again, we're in this position where we're going to have fewer homes on the market. Therefore, that's going to always drive competition. It's always going to push pricing up. But we will get to the stage where, hopefully, after COVID, the doors are open, and then you'll see a rush of properties hit the market. So that's probably, if you really are looking at to sell in the next year or so, getting ahead of that might be advantageous.
Yeah, I think so as well. I certainly don't think over the next 12 to 18 months we're going to see too much of a dip in real estate. If anything, it'll keep growing. So we're going to sort of just veer away a little bit from the real estate market and where it's at the moment. I'm going to ask you a couple of general questions, if you don't mind, and we'll see how you can think on your feet with some of these, Troy. Let's go all the way back to work-life career start. So you finished at Pittwater High School. What was next for Troy after that?
I tried a couple of different areas, right from mechanical background, panel beating, that type of thing. Worked with my father in the air conditioning business. But then once I started racing cars, then I didn't have the funds to race at the top level. So therefore, I had to open my own business to create an opportunity for myself to build my own race cars, and I built race cars for other people in order to get into that top level of motorsport. So I did that for a number of years, and then decided in 1990 that I wanted to settle down and have and build a career. Rather, you can spend a lot of money in motor racing very quickly. So I wanted to build a career that I could actually afford to go motor racing.
So how did it come about that career then was in real estate?
I actually had a friend of mine that was in real estate, and I mean, I'd already been passionate about real estate. I'd already bought my own home and knew a lot about real estate, so it seemed to be a natural way to go. But it's never, real estate's never what you think it is. I've hired probably 100 people over the years, and the amount of times people say it's not what they thought it was. Yes, and it's the same. But it's always, for me, I had the same philosophy. I'm here to help people, and once you understand that, you're not here to sell something. You're here to help people in a transaction, and use your expertise to reduce their stress levels and lead the way through the process. You enjoy it more, and it's more rewarding.
Yeah, I've always found the same thing too. I think if you've got people that genuinely go out there to help people, rewards come. The most reward you get is the fact that you've actually been able to help them. And that's not just in real estate, that's in life and whatever business that you're in. And that's where true success comes from. So I actually picked that up as a quote that you had on one of your sites. And it was, I love real estate sales as it fulfills my desire to help people succeed. And I think that's just a really, really nice core concept to hold personally to what it is that you approach yourself for doing. So with your own business and your own team, you obviously you've developed a culture. I'm aware of that because I'm in there. How did you build that culture from the ground up?
Slowly. It's I think the most challenging things about any business is staff and how to train them. I've always tried to create an environment there where people want to be. It's not I'm not just paying them to be there, or if I want them to help others, first of all, one of my mottos is how can I help? So I'm trying to create environment that people want to be there, and that gets the most out of them. I like to motivate people to reach their potential, even though, I've had to learn that sometimes people's potential or what they want the level of success they want may be different to what I imagine. But I'm there to support them to get to where they want to go.
Yeah. Yours is a true family business. You've got yourself, you've got Marie in the business, your wife as well, your partner, and you've got your daughter in the business as well, Brittany. How have you been able to manage that relationship with Marie being the boss at work and the boss at home?
Well, it's like this. She lets me pretend I'm the boss at home, and I let her pretend she's the boss at work.
Nice compromise. But in reality, for a lot of people, there's a lot of small businesses out there that have partnerships that are both at home and at work. When you started doing that, there would have been some challenges that you faced in doing that.
Challenges. I also had a lot of advice that it's not a good thing to do, that they would never do it, and even some staff wouldn't want to work with you because there was too many family members. The reality is, I believe that we all have our own role. It's not about who's boss, or we all have our own role, and we need to perform that role to the highest level. And if you mess up, you mess up. So once you get home, it's if you got in trouble for something, it was a criticism of a task that you perform, not necessarily a personal attack.
Yeah, good answer. Because I think a lot of people find in the early stages of having a relationship like that, to separate that work and home life takes trial and tribulation of putting some rules in place, I guess, schedules in place, routines where you can clearly separate that. And not everybody can do it, Troy. I've seen some people that haven't been able to do it. Yours is a case where, and this is why I'm trying to delve into, so there's good advice for other young people that are going into business in a partnership like that, that they can overcome those things,
Yeah. It's the same as if you're going into a partnership with someone will be working in the business, whether it's family or otherwise. You have to have your roles, and you have to have a clear understanding as to what those roles are and what the boundaries are. You can't really have two bosses, even though it's often suggested that we do. But ultimately, there can be senior people who have leadership roles, but ultimately there can only be one boss.
Excellent. All right, so a little bit miscellaneous on the questions here. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
First person that comes to mind would be Peter Brock. Not only for what he was as a race car driver and what he achieved in the industry, but more about him personally. About he was the type of guy that would tell you anything. He would share with you all the secrets of his success, and that's something that I struggled with in the early days, was sharing some of the things that I had an advantage of over other people, or over the competition, for example. But he would share that with you openly, and then go and beat you anyway. So
yeah, true legend. Not just as you say, in sport, but as a person. I never got to meet him, but followed his career with plenty of passion. You put up a Facebook post of the model of the little Tirana. They were very, very good days. What it doesn't have to be business related, but what business related or other book has inspired you the most?
That's a good question.
Thanks. I tried to ask only good ones.
There's been plenty of them. I probably couldn't say one in particular. You take bits and pieces from various books that meet your needs or talk to you as what your business might need.
So what if it's not business related, even if it was back to your childhood? Was there a book that inspired you?
Oh, only my motor racing books.
Well, at least you didn't say Mad Magazine.
No, in fact, I've just recently had a water leak in one of my storage sheds, and one of the books that I pulled out that had been damaged was probably from when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and Peter Brock was on the front page of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a shame, got a bit damaged, but yeah, it certainly took me back. And that's where things start. You read a book, or you see these people, and you want to be like them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. For me, it was Beverly Cleary's The Mouse and the Motorcycle, because the little mouse with his toy motorcycle running around the hotel, he could achieve whatever he wanted to, and he had a real sense of adventure for life. And I think life is important to have that sense of adventure. So that was a good one. Well, while we're on the books, let me ask you this one. If you were to write a book about yourself, how would you name it?
Oh, that's a good question. How can I help?
Nice. I like that. This is a bit tougher. What is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest failure? Probably, failure it's a tough word. I learned, I thought I knew everything there was to know about real estate and investing, and I was always very confident in buying or building or developing property. I learned a few things about the banks along the way, and stepping outside of the residential world into a commercial world is something else, and with different rules, different regulations. So there was a time when that played hard out, for me. So I had lessons to learn there for sure.
Yeah, don't we all? Who are the 3 people that have been the most influential to you?
My father, number one, by a long shot. Yeah, I mean, he taught me things without saying anything. He didn't teach me as in this is what you need to do. It was more he set the example. He taught me work ethic. To have integrity, to be kind, to be polite. So I get a lot. I drew a lot from Dad. Obviously, Peter Brock again. He changed a lot of from the sporting side and in just growing as a person. He had a big influence, and really my family. My daughters, my wife. You learn a lot from them. I mean, you're here to teach them, but you learn a lot from them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
What would I ask myself? Tough questions on a debut. If I was you.
Yeah, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't?
I would basically, I get the question, why do I do what I do a lot? And I think that the answer to that it comes back to what we touched on before. I like to help people. I feel like, I feel like that's the gift that I've got. It's the opportunity that I've got. It's I feel a certain amount of obligation to be there for people in their transactions with real estate.
And I don't think it's just in transactions in real estate. I think it's in life as well. It was actually interesting. We were listening to some music the other day, and music's such an important part of everything that we do in life, and especially at times like now when we were extended lockdowns and a lot of restrictions, and there's a lot of bad news. Don't even watch the news because the numbers just keep getting higher and that sort of stuff. And we're listening to some Genesis, some Phil Collins and Genesis. And I'm just going to read to you the lyrics of a part of the song of Land of Confusion. And I'll get your comments on it based on our current situation. So the words are, there's too many men, too many people, making too many problems and not much love to go around. Can't you see this is a land of confusion? This is the world we live in, and these are the hands we're given. Use them and let's start trying to make it a place worth living in. Now, that song was written in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that just resonates with where we're at now. So for you, your family, and your team at work, because they're very restricted in what they can do, how do you help and support them as just a way of giving an example to other people that might be watching or listening this, and they're in a similar situation with teams, to how they can help and support them and their loved ones with being connected?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, knowing that they've got your support, that you'll do everything to ensure their job is still there at the end of the day. Making sure that they know that this is just a phase that we're going through, and that we'll get out the other side. I think more than that, I mean, that's what you can do today. But I've always tried to be a bit like you, Mark, generous in spirit. People won't in these times won't think, oh, what's he going to do? Is he going to take try and save some money, or is he going to try and do something that might be not helpful to them? Where most of my staff would know that I'm there for them, and I would financially back them because we're a working family, so you always have to have their back.
Very good. There was a gentleman by the name of James Lipton from inside the Actors Studio who used to always finish his interviews with 10 specific questions. He stole those questions from a French journalist and presenter by the name of Bernard Pivot. So now I'm stealing them from James. So these are your 10 questions, Troy. Number 1, what is your favourite word?
Yes.
Love it. Number 2, what is your least favourite word?
I hate no.
Number 3, what turns you on?
Competition.
Good answer. What turns you off?
Dishonesty.
What sound or noise do you love?
That's a hard question. We can bleep that part out.
No, we can't. You have to answer. There's got to be a sound or noise that you love. I would have thought it would have been a V8. But
oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you hate?
Well, loud noise.
Loud noise?
As in, one of those ones is a Formula One, the old V10s, without earplugs. Oh, that was loud.
100%, even with the earplugs. What is your favourite curse word?
Don't have one.
Excellent. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I like construction. I like earthworks. I think anything you can build something with.
Give the man a Tonka truck.
Even a farmer.
A farmer, yeah. What profession would you not like to do?
Oh, politician.
I'm laughing because the last interview I did, they said exactly the same thing. And I think that's only because on the jobs respectability scale, politicians rank lower than real estate agents. So that's always a positive. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome.
Excellent. Troy Nicholson, R&W Man Annan Narellan, thank you very much for joining us today on Let's Talk Macarthur.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you again probably in a month's time. So just so everybody knows, we're going to be doing a monthly market update and a bit of a review and a subject of a topic that was of interest for each month. Troy will be joining us on that, and we'll continue from there. In the meantime, Macarthur, stay safe and look after each other.